I had a chance to play the first few chapters of Until Dawn recently, and it ended at the worst possible moment. Whereas the first hour or so is slowly setting the table for all of the craziness that's about to ensue, when everything hits the fan, it hits hard. While it doesn't succeed in everything it sets out to do as an adventure experience, most fans of the game will dig it as a campy horror game. Our tale starts off a year before the main storyline, with a prelude of sorts. In a cabin, high up on an isolated Canadian mountaintop. A bunch of teens, and I use that term lightly as they all look 30, have gathered for some weekend shenanigans. And of course, something goes awry, leading to the mysterious death of two sisters. A year later, the surviving members of the group decide to go back to the same location, bringing all sorts of emotional baggage with them. Most of you have probably seen this type of campy setup before, but this is exactly what Until Dawn is going for. Soon enough, you'll start to see the action ratchet up a bit, as more of the mystery of the mountain is revealed, and a psycho killer shows up, creating some Saw-like situations. It's real sick shit. You'll also start to learn a little bit more about the characters' motivations and their relationships with one another, which you can minimally influence by way of light choices. By light, I mean typical Telltale options that don't really influence the game in any meaningful way. The main gimmick here is the butterfly effect, which will branch out your personal story, complete with a butterfly icon explosion on screen and a handy menu option that lets you view your past choices. It can range from something significant like whether or not you want to risk your life saving a friend, or what door you took in an abandoned building. With the butterflies pop up, it's basically Supermassive's way of saying, this character will remember that. Without spoiling anything, most choices don't matter until the end of the game, where character deaths start to happen more often. Outside of the choice mechanic that basically surmounts to moving an analog stick in the desired direction, there's lots of walking involved, coupled with QTEs for the action bits. It's unimaginative at times, especially in the shaky intro sections, as those long roads seem to be there mostly to pad the game. After all, there's only so many plain paths you can take in the woods before it gets boring. But after the 2 hours, more interesting locations start to pop up, which house interesting documents and more bits of lore for you to locate. This is where the game excels. Despite the above issues, I was inspired to play Until Dawn from start to finish in one sitting. It was interesting enough where it kept me captivated throughout, and the game is exceptionally good at world building. While I initially didn't care about the whole meta-narrative surrounding the mountain, I quickly changed my tune as I acquired more totem collectibles, which are essentially artifacts that each unlock a few seconds of a secret video that gives you a bit more background on the events of the game. Where recent David Cage efforts fail for me is the overemphasis on performances that end up wooden, and a terrible plot that begs to be taken seriously. Thankfully, while the other elements of the game may not be all that riveting or new, Until Dawn dives in with both feet on the horror theme. Sure, it's not an excuse for some campy performances, but you really know what you're getting here, and there's no bait and switch involved. The script is also occasionally funny, as are the performances from the mostly talented cast. My general enjoyment of the core cast goes double for the analyst sections of the game, featuring the always delightful Peter Stormare. These portions are easily the best part of the experience, as a mysterious psychologist asks you a series of questions, usually about your fears, in various interludes of sorts after each chapter concludes.
Do you even believe that I am real?
It slowly gets darker and more twisted over time, and they really nail the tension here. So how long is the game? My playthrough took roughly 7 hours, and you'll have the option to replay chapters individually to rectify past wrongs or try out new choices. There's also a few extras involved, in the form of little video featurettes that you can probably watch on YouTube in a week. If you aren't keen on hunting for collectibles, you can try to change the ending into one you desire. Until Dawn knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't pretend to be anything more. In that process, it allows for some predictable plot lines, hammy acting, and lack of meaningful choices, but I'm glad that it exists, and every horror fan owes it to themselves to play it at some point, especially at a price cut. For the written review of Until Dawn by Chris Carter, please check Destructoid.com.